All right, so the last few videos, you've probably noticed there's a large chunk missing out of my collection. And that is because I pulled down the anthology films that I have and anthology television series as well. Now, I tried to be as thorough as I could. Doing these collections videos are complicated because, you know, when you're doing a specific subgenre, you have to go through each one individually. And with the amount of titles I have, that is time consuming, and you also can skim over things. So there might be something in my collection I missed, but for right now, we're going to call this my complete anthology collection. So let's jump into it. We're going to start, of course, with the most popular franchise, and this is Creepshow, the wonderful, like, thicker box here from Scream Factory that came with this cool comic looking little book inside of it. Got some great artwork and whatnot. Very cool stuff. And this DVD, or DVD, this Blu-ray, which I think, does it have a DVD too? Usually these days they don't include them because I don't need them. I don't need a freaking DVD. When they include DVDs, now I'm just like, why? It's just a waste of plastic. This is a 4K scan, but it is on a Blu-ray. I wish they would just give us a Blu-ray instead with a 4K, because that I would want. Because not everything in my arsenal over here plays 4Ks. Some only play Blu-rays, so it's good to have both. So Creepshow, just, I love the artwork. I love this copy. I love this so much. Such a wonderful film, and it has to be a part of any anthology discussion. If you're not bringing up Creepshow in an anthology discussion, then I don't know what the hell you're talking about, because that's the best shit ever. All right, next up, Creepshow 2. I have the Arrow release of this one. Another fave of mine. I never really know which one to say I prefer, but the Old Chief Woodenhead segment from this one is iconic to me. Sam Whitemoon is a favorite character of mine. I grew up watching this one a lot. The Raft segment also is another one that was so big to my life. I know there's only 3 segments in this with the Hitchhiker as well. That's one downside to this one, is that there's less segments, but also with there being less segments, they can focus a little more time on each segment. That being said, this is a shorter film, so it's not like we get the same run time as the previous film with 5 entries. But I do like having at least 4 entries. But I still love Creepshow 2. I have a big framed I have a big poster of this on my wall. I have a framed poster for Creepshow 1 on my wall. So I am a big fan of both of these. The one I am not a fan of, that no one on earth should be a fan of, and if you are, that's totally fine. Your taste is your taste, but Creepshow 3, unfortunately, I do own this only because I'm a completist, but there are some people who say, like, oh, if this wasn't a Creepshow movie, people would like it more. Maybe they'd like it more, but how much more? 0.01%? This movie is trash. The only thing even remotely good about this movie, and I was very much anticipating this movie when it was being released. I followed the production of this. I went to the website where it had like these cool animated images that you could click on. I was like, oh man, maybe they're really putting some effort into this one. The only thing that I remember even slightly liking is how ridiculously candid the doctor is when he's telling like kids they're going to die and stuff. That stuff was pretty funny to me, but everything else, I mean, this movie is just horrendous. Now, of course, I've covered almost everything that I'm going to be talking about here. Not 100% of it, but a lot of it. So all the Creepshow stuff, you can get my thoughts on. Now, I do own Creepshow Season 3 on DVD because they sent this to me. For some reason, Shudder likes to randomly send me things. Not sure why, but this made me, of course, want to go and buy season 1 and 2 and then eventually 4, just because I'm a completist, but I've yet to do that. But I do own Creepshow Season 3 only because it was sent to me for free. All right, moving on. We are going to show that I have the Masters of Horror Season 1. Why Season 2 is not available like this is annoying, but this was like $5. $5 for the entire first season of Masters of Horror. All 13 episodes. Yeah, it's not the most, beautiful looking collection or set, and the freaking thing inside is broken because this is just such a cheap set, but it's better than nothing. It's better than not having the option of buying the entirety of season 2. I wish that they would release a season 2 like this, at least give it to me for $5-10. I don't even need it that cheap, but at least let me have the other season, because it's such a bummer that season 2 isn't as easy to get your hands on. All right, my favorite anthology show ever. No, not Tales from the Crypt. Channel Zero. They do not make this on Blu-ray in the United States for whatever reason. So I got this for $20. You get all 4 seasons: Candle Cove, No End House, Butcher's Block, and The Dream Door. My very, very favorite horror show ever on television. I think this show is brilliant. There are 6 episodes per season. Each season is its own self-contained anthology tale. And I think all 4 seasons are fantastic. I love this show. Couldn't say enough good about it. Have all 4 framed posters right here up to my right. And yeah, it's just fantastic. It's just fantastic. I wish there was a better set, but that's the best set that they currently offer in the States, and I went with it. All right, next up, why don't we jump ahead and do these bad boys right here. We've got Tales from the Crypt, season 1 through 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and finally the 7th season. Now these, I like the consistency of the boxes. They all look good together, except for in season 1 and 2. You got the box that came out with the discs inside, the sleeves and everything, as to where with this went to more like small cases. So I don't like the consistency that way, because I do like my collections to be more uniform. But, beggars can't be choosers. I'm glad that the boxes... I stopped collecting South Park after season 20 because it was getting harder to find the boxes that matched the boxes I already have. And I like that consistency if it exists. And when you have 20 in a row that look a certain way and then they move to a different style, it's like, no thank you. Now, while this is not really technically anthology, I guess it is an anthology story, part of the Tales from the Crypt universe here, which is Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, the phenomenal film from Ernest Dickerson that stars Billy Zane, William Sadler, Jada Pinkett. I love this film. I've seen it so many times. I have covered every episode of Tales from the Crypt. I covered the movies that they made. Demon Knight, by far and away, being the best film Tales from the Crypt ever made. I can't say enough good about it. Now, once again, this is not an anthology film, but because it is part of the Tales from the Crypt, it is one of the anthology stories. And I guess you could also say that the other films that are here within that also kind of fall into that camp, where these are, Tales from the Crypt, Bordella of Blood with Dennis Miller and Chris Sarandon, and also Corey Feldman pops up in here, but I'm not seeing his name on here. I just remember him being in this movie, but yeah, I'm not seeing him on the cover or anything. I'm not crazy on that, right? It's been a long time since I've seen it. Nah, he's in it. And then, of course, the kind of like sort of Tales from the Crypt movie that was like not Tales from the Crypt, and then they kind of threw some Tales of the Crypt thing on it. Was supposed to be the third film. This is Ritual with Jennifer Grey, from Dirty Dancing. And this is actually an okay movie. I reviewed all of these on the channel, but this is the one that does have the Crypt Keeper. He's like Jamaican in this. But it is the only other Tales from the Crypt film from this franchise. Now, there is another Tales from the Crypt film. We'll get to that, but this is the entirety of this run here, based on the comics. All right, moving on to another show like this. We have the Tales from the Dark Side television series, all 4 seasons here. I've watched a good amount of this. The show has a much lower production value to it, but there's season 1, season 2, season 3, and season 4. These are okay. I'd like to cover these on the channel, but guys, when I say I don't got no time, oh my God, do I not? We also have the Tales from the Dark Side movie, which is another anthology film. This has a bunch of familiar faces in it, from Deborah Harry to Christian Slater to William Hickey, James Remar, Ray Dong Chong, and Steve Buscemi, who's right here on the cover. So you do get a bunch of familiar faces in here. It's a movie I like. I enjoy that one for sure. And I do think I did cover it here on the channel. Moving on to another franchise here. We have VHS, the VHS franchise. And because I bought the first couple when they originally came out on DVD, VHS 2, VHS Viral, VHS 94, VHS 99. I've yet to get VHS 85, but because I had the first few on DVD, I wanted to stay consistent with it. And because the franchise is supposed to be lo-fi. That's kind of the whole gimmick, is that it's supposed to look like it was shot on a VHS camera. The quality of the transfer wasn't all that important to me, and I thought it kind of added to it, right? To have it more on like DVD and a lower resolution than Blu-ray. The VHS films on Blu-ray just don't really make a lot of sense to me, honestly, because that's kind of the whole gimmick behind it. All right, moving on. And we're going to do it this way. All right. So now we've got, where's the last one? Wait, what? Oh, here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right, another major franchise, the biggest franchise in anthologies, in my opinion, because it's like the OG franchise. And this consisted of it. There's an argument back and forth on what is and what isn't. So I think technically there is like only 7 films within the Amicus anthologies, but I do like to throw in the 8th. And then there's another one called like the Uncanny, but like I don't even own that. And it gets thrown in there as well. But I usually say 8. A lot of people say 7. But we got Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. A lot of these have Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, much like the Hammer films. Donald Sutherland's in here as well. But this is the first one. And I do have that one on Blu-ray. This is the only one I have on Blu-ray, unfortunately. And then I honestly don't remember in what order these are. I know Monster Club is last. And I want to say like maybe From Beyond the Grave is next or something. I can't remember the order in which these were released off the top of my head, but there's From Beyond the Grave. This came with the Twisted Terror collection as well. Oh, I think I left this out. I did leave this out of that video when I was talking about the John Carpenter collection. that came with Dr. Giggles and all of that. This is another film in that set. Okay, so there was one more, and I took it out to put it part of my as part of my Amicus anthologies. Well, shit, there you go. Then next up, we do have the Tales from the Crypt movie that I had referred to earlier, as well as a Vault of Horror. Now, these, of course, were similar comics made by the same people, if I remember correctly. And and this was the first production of Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror. And they're a good little double feature. And I have a double feature Midnight Movies DVD here. I do quite like these. I did cover all of these on the channel. Next up, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing once again in The House That Dripped Blood. Love these old titles. You gotta love them. They're very much to the point. All right, next up we've got Asylum in one of those, like, I don't know what kind of case you call this. Never been a huge fan of this case style. They always kind of get stuck on each other, but I don't know. They kind of got a nostalgia to me because that reminds me of like old DVDs. And then we've got Torture Garden here as well. All of these are good to varying degrees. There's some that I like much more than others. And lastly, as I said, people can say this is or isn't part of it. The Monster Club. This one's really fun to me. It has a lot of really cool, like, musical acts in between. These monsters are at a club, the Monster Club, and they're telling each other stories. And you've got Vincent Price, John Carradine, Donald Pleasance, yeah, there's like these musical acts that happen in between their stories, which I quite like. I'm a sucker for Your Love is a really good song, and I always enjoy seeing it. So there's the Amicus anthology films. Gotta have it in any anthology collection that you want to be taken seriously. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Ghost Stories. This one has Martin Freeman in it. It's a more recent one. You know, I wasn't crazy about this one, but people did really like it. This is a Dollar Tree purchase, so I thought, hey, it's an anthology. I like anthologies. Maybe I'm going to give it another shot one day, so I picked it up. Next up, one that I really love, has one of my favorite segments in anthology history. This is Nightmares. This has Tara in Topanga, which is a pretty classic tale that a lot of people are familiar with. But the one I love is The Bishop of Battle. There are 4 stories in this one, but this Bishop of Battle episode has Emilio Estevez and Billy Jacoby. Really big, really a big fan of this one. It kind of reminds me of the Are You Afraid of the Dark episode with the pinball machine. I think it's called like The Tale of the Pinball Machine or whatever. But I love that segment. I've always been a big fan of it. All right, next up, we've got Scare Package, a recent Shudder original. I loved this. I thought this was super fun, super funny. And then the second one came out and I was all excited for it and I hated it. I thought it was terrible. So I do not own that one. Maybe one day I'll pick it up as a completist, but as of right now, I got this one for, maybe someone sent this to me actually. I think maybe someone sent this to me, but I did quite like Scare Package. Next up, maybe the best freaking scariest anthology segment ever. A drop of water or a drip of water. I think it's a drop of water. This is Mario Bava's Black Sabbath. If for some reason you haven't seen this Kino Lorber copy is fantastic. Their cleanups, their transfers are phenomenal. And Black Sabbath is a fantastic anthology film with one of the best segments in anthology history. Once you see the face in a drop of water, you are going to be scarred for life. That is one of the most unsettling images I've ever seen put on screen. So kudos to that. Another director, we've already shown this off here in a different video showing off the collection. In fact, these next 2 are, so let's just get them out of the way. We have John Carpenter's Body Bags that he made alongside of Tobe Hooper. This is an anthology movie that they made for like HBO maybe. I want to say it was, or maybe Showtime. I can't remember which network, but it was one of those paid cable TV programs. And then we got Two Evil Eyes, which was Dario Argento and George A. Romero. Now, this is only 2 segments, which is a rarity for anthologies, but it does give a lot of time to tell an actual full story. So there's that. It almost kind of plays out like Masters of Horror, right? Where you get like an hour per episode. So it's almost like a full feature-length film, 2 for the price of 1, almost like Grindhouse, which I do not own the Grindhouse in a set. I only own Planet Terror and Death Proof separately, so I'm not displaying those. But yes, I am going to mention them really quick. All right, next up, we've got the little duo ABCs of Death 1 and 2. I do not own ABCs of Death 2.5, nor have I seen it. These are okay. There's like 26 segments per movie, and they're all very short. Some are fun, some are memorable. A lot of them are not memorable, and then some of them are just outright terrible. But it's an interesting little collection of like minute, 2-minute, 5-minute shorts. Each based on a specific letter in the alphabet. It was a cool little concept. It didn't last very long, but there is a 2.5, which I do not own, but I would like to get my hands on at some point. Next up, we got a film that was supposed to be part of the After Dark Horror Fest, but is not. I think it got pulled for whatever reason. I've never actually seen this film. I bought it because it was supposed to be part of that After Dark Horror Fest. And this is Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horrors, not to be confused, of course, with Tales from the Hood. I have nothing to say about this film except for its connection to the After Dark Horror Fest collection. With that, I will show that I do own a copy of Tales from the Hood on VHS, as well as a copy of Trilogy of Terror on VHS. Those are the 2 movies. I also own Creepshow and whatever, but I wasn't going to bring those down here. But I do own those on VHS. I do not own them on DVD, Blu-ray, anything, which I really wish I owned Tales from the Hood on its Scream Factory release, but I don't have it. All right, next up, we've got Tales That Witness Madness, another one with Donald Pleasance in it. Yeah, I saw it, barely remember it. These are the kinds of movies that I probably should revisit at some point. This one I also have never seen. This is Tales from Beyond, Adam West. The only reason I own this is because a client of mine said that their friend or I think they themselves worked on it. I want to say it was them because I was like, what? I got to see this. I grabbed it for like nothing. I got it for like $2 on eBay. Anyway, all right, next up, Chillerama. Such a fun movie. Got some ridiculous segments. It was really fun to watch. Adam Green, Joe Lynch, having a blast here. I really enjoy a lot of this one. And yeah, some people do not enjoy it at all, think it's stupid. It is stupid, but in a way that I found to be very entertaining. All right, next up, we've got Chilling Visions, 5 Senses of Fear, one of the most underrated, overlooked anthologies, in my opinion. I love the concept behind this. We get a tale from different senses, perspectives, whether it's smell, see, touch, taste, or listen. Those are the segment titles. And the listen one is my favorite. I think it's super eerie, but I'm a really big fan. Now, I do have a copy, but it's only a burn. It's somewhere in the collection over here. I think it was Guillermo Canales who sent it to me because I was always looking for its sequel, which was like 5 States of Fear, and it's terrible. When I watched it, I covered it on the channel. I hated it. I was like, oh, this is why this thing was buried. Terrible, terrible follow-up for such a good movie. Such a shame that this got such a bad sequel, but this one is worth your time. In my opinion, I think this one is pretty freaking rad. All right, moving on to another lesser-known little series here, and this was something on VH1, if I remember correctly. and this was Strange Frequency and Strange Frequency 2. And these are horror anthologies based around music. Obviously, as I said, made for, I want to say it was VH1. It wasn't MTV, that's for damn sure. But a VH1 is, I'm almost positive it was what it was. And I like these. You got Eric Roberts in one of these. You've got Peter Strauss. You've got, I don't know. I was a fan of these, especially the first one. I remember when it came on back in the day when they aired it on what I think is VH1. And being like, that was a fun thing. And then to find out there was a sequel years later on DVD when I went to buy the first one. I was like, I gotta see this shit. So I don't remember the second one, honestly, off the top of my head. So I do need to go back and look back into it and be like, confirm that I actually did watch it. I swear I did. But yeah, there you go. All right. Next up, we've got George A. Romero's Dead Time Stories Volume 2, which I never got my hands on Volume 1, and I've never seen it, so I have nothing to say about it. Next up, we have Terror Tract, which stars John Ritter. He's the one telling the stories. I do quite like this one. I find this one to be super fun. Now, of course, I don't own every anthology I've seen, and there's plenty of others that I would love to talk about here, but I'm only here to talk about the ones that I have seen. It is very hard to get a copy of this. I had to buy some French version of it, hence why it looks so interesting and different and has French on the front. But it was the only way I could get it. I think it is a region like 2, so you have to have a region-free player for it. But I've always been a fan of this one. It's pretty silly. But yeah, isn't this the one? I'm pretty sure this is the one with Bryan Cranston and the monkey. Yeah, this is the Bryan Cranston one as well. So you also get Bryan Cranston in here. And I did review this on the channel. All right, next up, Where Terrifier Came From. This is Damien Leone's All Hallows Eve. There you go. Art the Clown himself. His first film. This is not David as Art in here. This is a different actor. But this is the first Terrifier film, and then they've got other segments, and they did make a sequel, All Hallows Eve 2, which was just comprised of a bunch of YouTube shorts that they threw on film. But I actually like the shorts, and I am a fan of both of these. I think they both have good stories, even though you can just get the stories from 2 on YouTube, but I like it. Next up, we got the Willies. This one has Sean Astin telling the stories in this, and it is a silly ass movie. It has some pretty stupid stories and a pretty stupid ending, but you know what? It's a fun little nostalgic film. All right, next up, this beautiful Blu-ray, Necronomicon, which I think is another French Blu-ray, but it is a beautiful transfer. This has Jeffrey Combs in it, and with him attached to it, Necronomicon, H.P. Lovecraft, of course, he was in. And it has Brian Yuzna as attached to it as well. This is a really cool anthology that most people have overlooked, and I think they should check out. Next up, I have a bootleg of Freddy's Nightmares because they've yet to release this proper that I'm aware of, and I had to buy this. And this was, you know, because these are anthology tales told by Freddy Krueger, I had to bring it up. It's a stupid show. It is unfortunately a very stupid show, but I do have it in that regard. And the Friday the 13th series is not an anthology. That's more of like a Monster of the Week kind of thing with possessed items. So I wouldn't really classify that as an anthology series. Next up, we've got Quicksilver Highway. This has a Stephen King story attached to it, Chattery Teeth. Matthew Furrer, I never know how to say that guy's name. Mick Garris is attached to this. It's okay. I covered it on the channel. It's kind of silly. It feels very Clive Barker-esque with Christopher Lloyd dressed up as like almost a Cenobite. I have Cat's Eye here in this 4-pack. I also have it on VHS. This is that Drew Barrymore movie. That has a bunch of tales with the guy trying to like walk around the outside of the building because the dude like catches him with his wife. That's a pretty good little tale there. And then of course the Drew Barrymore segment where the guy's trying to like kill the kid and the cat's there to protect her. It's a fun memorable movie from the 80s. And then lastly, we've got Nightmares and Dreamscapes, a Stephen King production on TNT is what I remember. And it's got a bunch of different tales. We did cover every single episode on the channel. And yeah, it's got some good stuff. It's got some bad stuff. It's got some mediocre stuff. But that's it, guys. I don't have much of a voice, so I'm going to cut it off here because it's been a struggle this whole time. And I'll see you in the next one. Let me know what your favorite anthologies are. What should I have in my collection that I don't? And what should I do next? Let me know. Bye.